The cold wind of Erebus 9 cut through the settlement like a blade, carrying with it the metallic scent of the planet's iron-rich soil. Captain Elias Vorn wrapped his coat tighter around his body and stared at the shuttle that had just landed on the landing pad. Its surface shimmered in the weak sunlight, reflecting a pale silver that seemed almost alive. Today was no ordinary day for the colony. Today they had received their most unusual passenger yet, a Nithari, an alien species that humans had studied for decades but had never truly understood. The Nithari were strange, frightening, and beautiful in a way that unsettled most humans. They were pale, almost translucent, with eyes that glimmered like polished onyx. Their presence made people instinctively uneasy. But Elias had never been a man to follow instincts alone. Science, reason, and curiosity guided him. That was why he had volunteered for this mission, though he could not hide the tension in his chest. The shuttle door hissed open, and a figure emerged. She moved with a grace that seemed unnatural, yet somehow perfectly balanced. Her hair was the color of moonlight cascading down her shoulders, and her eyes scanned the colony as if she were both curious and cautious at the same time. Her name was Lyra. Elias stepped forward, extending his hand. "Welcome to Erebus 9, he said, his voice firm but careful. "I'm Captain Elias Vorn. I'll be assisting you during your stay." She tilted her head slightly, regarding him with those deep, unsettling eyes. Then, almost imperceptibly, she inclined her head in acknowledgement. The scientists and council members had briefed Elias on her situation. Lyra was sterile, incapable of reproducing by any known means. She had been part of a project to study life generation, an experiment to see if human biology could somehow trigger the impossible. Humanity had faced declining birth rates in frontier colonies, and the Galactic Council had grown desperate. They had turned to the Nithari, hoping that humans might bring new life where none could exist. Elias had been skeptical at first. The project seemed audacious, even reckless. But as he studied the Nithari species, he began to see the potential, not just for life, but for understanding. Lyra's arrival marked the beginning of a challenge unlike any he had faced before. The colony's shuttle bay was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional creak of metal under the planet's wind. Lyra moved toward the interior of the colony with an elegance that made her seem almost ghostly. Elias followed, careful not to startle her. "You'll have your own quarters," Elias explained as they walked through the corridors. "We've prepared a room with controlled temperature, nutrition supplies, and biomonitors. It should be comfortable for you." She did not seem offended, nor did she show gratitude. She simply observed everything, the lighting, the walls, the humans passing by, their expressions, and Elias felt as though she could see into his very thoughts. At the laboratory, things became more serious. Elias introduced Lyra to the equipment, the monitors, and the experimental devices designed to study her biology. There were syringes, scanners, and a strange machine that hummed with a soft blue light, capable of interfacing with alien physiology. "We need to understand your biology fully," Elias explained, careful with his words. "This will help us see if life can exist within you. If we succeed, it could change everything for humans and Nithari alike." Together, Lyra observed him just as closely, noting the way humans moved, the way they interacted with machines, the way they handled stress. Despite the tension, there was a strange rhythm to their work. They would spend hours in the laboratory, running tests, recording data, and discussing findings. Lyra rarely spoke, but when she did, it was in thoughtful phrases that revealed her intelligence and insight. She questioned assumptions, suggested adjustments, and occasionally startled Elias with observations no human scientist had considered. One evening, as the red sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the colony, Elias and Lyra were in the lab examining energy signatures in her blood. "You feel different tonight," Elias said cautiously. "Your readings are unusual." "Strange in what way?" They had tamed planets, engineered environments, and adapted biology. But now, standing next to Lyra, he realized that human ingenuity might not be limited to technology or science. It could extend to life itself. The days passed quickly. The colony began to adjust to Lyra's presence. Children peered at her from a distance, whispering and pointing, while adults watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. Some humans could not hide their suspicion, while others were captivated by her otherworldly beauty. Elias knew that trust would be fragile, but he also knew that curiosity often overcame fear in humans. Then one night, as they ran a particularly sensitive experiment, something remarkable happened. Lyra's body reacted to the energy interface in ways neither she nor Elias had anticipated. The biomonitors began to display fluctuations, tiny pulses of life energy that seemed impossible for a sterile being. Elias stared at the readings in disbelief. This shouldn't be happening," he whispered. Lyra did not react immediately. She simply stood, her hand resting lightly on the interface, her eyes closed. A faint glow surrounded her, barely visible but unmistakable. It was as if some ancient rhythm, dormant for centuries, had awakened. "What is it?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. "Do you see it, human?" "You're reacting. Something inside you is alive. Life finds a way, even where it seems there is none." Over the next few hours, they continued the experiments carefully, documenting every pulse, every reaction. Lyra's body seemed to adapt to the interface, almost as if it understood the technology instinctively. Elias marveled at her resilience, her intelligence, and the strange harmony she could achieve with human invention. By the time the night ended, Elias was exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra, too, seemed different, more alert, more aware, as if a spark had been ignited within her. They had crossed a threshold tonight, one that neither species had expected to reach. As Elias left the lab, he glanced back at Lyra. She was standing by the window, looking out at the frozen landscape of Erebus 9. The wind caught her hair, and the glow from the monitors reflected softly on her skin. For the first time, she seemed almost human, and Elias realized something profound. Humans had always adapted, always survived, and always found solutions where others saw dead ends. But here, on this distant planet, facing an impossible challenge, human ingenuity had done something more. It had created the conditions for life where none could exist. Lyra turned slightly, catching his gaze. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. It was not a smile of trust, not yet, but it was something. A flicker of connection, of understanding. Elias nodded to himself. This was only the beginning. The mission had started, and already the impossible was within reach. Outside, Erebus 9 stretched in endless darkness, cold and unyielding. But inside the laboratory, light and warmth had begun to grow, faint, fragile, and utterly alive. And for the first time, Captain Elias Vorn and Lyra, the sterile Nethari, understood that the universe still held miracles, waiting for humans daring enough to find them. The morning light of Erebus 9 crept over the jagged mountains, painting the frozen plains in shades of red and gold. Inside the laboratory, Captain Elias Vorn moved carefully among the equipment, adjusting the monitors and checking data logs. Lyra stood nearby, silent, her eyes following his every movement. There was a quiet understanding between them now, an unspoken acknowledgement that something extraordinary was happening. Elias reviewed the results from the previous night. The energy pulses in Lyra's body had stabilized, but they were still unpredictable. The readings suggested that life energy was forming inside her, something that had never been observed in a sterile Nethari before. He rubbed his eyes and leaned back in his chair, trying to process what it meant. "Captain," Lyra said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence, "why are humans so obsessed with life? With creating it, controlling it?" "Yes," he admitted, "but fear does not always prevent progress. Sometimes it guides it." Lyra stepped onto the platform willingly, her pale skin glowing faintly as the machine calibrated. "You will feel warmth," Elias explained, his hand hovering near the controls. "It is not dangerous. It is part of the process." She could sense the life energy responding, tiny sparks pulsing like distant stars. Elias monitored every signal, adjusting the interface in real time. Suddenly, the monitors spiked. Elias leaned forward, astonished. "Lyra, the energy, it's accelerating, faster than I expected." "Something new." Lyra, the sterile Nethari, was showing signs of carrying life. The announcement caused a mixture of wonder and fear. Some humans saw it as a miracle, proof that cooperation between species could achieve incredible results. Others feared the implications. What if something went wrong? What if the energy inside her became unstable? Despite the caution, Elias and Lyra continued their work. They spent long hours in the laboratory, observing, recording, and adjusting the interface. Lyra's body continued to change subtly. Her strength seemed to increase, and her senses grew sharper. She could detect energy flows in the room, in the equipment, and even in Elias. It was as if her body was adapting to the presence of new life. One evening, as the twin moons of Erebus 9 rose in the sky, casting silver light across the plains, Elias and Lyra ventured outside. They walked through the settlement, observing the human and Nethari interactions. Children peeked from behind walls, curious and cautious. Some adults whispered among themselves, unsure how to react to this unprecedented event. Lyra stopped at the edge of a frozen lake, her reflection shimmering on the ice. "Humans are resilient," she said softly. "They adapt, they survive. Perhaps that is why this life can exist, because of your nature. Not just from accidents or instability, but from those who might see it as a threat or an opportunity for exploitation. This life, it is yours and ours to protect, together." These abilities were not fully understood, but they seemed tied to the life she carried. Elias marveled at her resilience. The Nethari had always been mysterious and feared, but Lyra's willingness to trust him and engage with human technology demonstrated a remarkable capacity for cooperation. It was this union of human ingenuity and alien biology that made the experiment succeed beyond anyone's expectations. One day, as they explored a section of the colony's old ruins, they discovered carvings on the walls, ancient Nethari symbols that seemed to depict rituals of life and energy transfer. Lyra's eyes widened as she studied them. These are teachings. Methods the Nethari once used to create life. They were lost, forgotten, but they resonate with me, with this life inside me. It was painstaking work, but both were driven by the same purpose, to protect and nurture the life forming inside Lyra. One night as they returned to the laboratory, a sudden alarm blared through the colony. Lights flickered and security doors sealed automatically. Elias' heart sank. "We've been discovered," he said grimly. A rival faction of humans, driven by greed and fear, had learned of Lyra's condition. They wanted to capture her and the life she carried to exploit it for power or profit. The colony's council scrambled to protect her, but Elias knew it would not be enough. He turned to Lyra. "We need to move. Now, you and I. We can take the northern tunnels. They'll buy us time." It was as if the life inside her was giving her new strength, new instincts. Finally, they reached the northern tunnels, a hidden labyrinth carved into the ice and rock. Elias paused, catching his breath. "We'll be safe here for now, but we can't stay forever. We need a plan, something that will protect the life inside you from anyone who would harm it." "Perhaps we do not need only a plan, Captain. Perhaps we need trust, trust between us and trust in those who wish to help." Lyra adapted quickly, learning to control the energy inside her, channeling it safely and even using it to enhance the tunnel's systems. One evening, as they rested after a long day of work, Lyra spoke softly. "I can feel it now. The life within me, it responds to me. I can guide it, nurture it. I can protect it." "You're not just carrying life, you're shaping it, influencing it. This is beyond anything we imagined. There are still those who would exploit this. We cannot let them win." For the first time, he truly understood the meaning of life, not just as a biological process, but as a force that could grow, adapt, and survive against all odds. Outside, Erebus 9 remained harsh and unforgiving, a world of ice and iron. But within the tunnels, a new life had begun, fragile yet resilient, guided by the ingenuity of a human and the strength of a Nethari. The experiment had moved beyond science. It was now a story of trust, courage, and the extraordinary potential of cooperation between species. As they prepared for another night of observation, Elias glanced at Lyra. She was calm, focused, and for the first time almost serene. The life within her stirred faintly, a tiny pulse of energy that seemed to echo in the air around them. Elias knew the journey ahead would be dangerous. The rival faction would not give up, and the energy within Lyra could still be unpredictable. But for now, they had achieved something remarkable. Life had returned to the impossible, and humans had played a role in that miracle. Lyra looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "We have begun something new, Captain. Something no one thought possible. The universe has not seen the last of us." But inside, life had returned, fragile and bright, a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the extraordinary bond between two beings from different worlds. The tunnels of Erebus 9 were silent except for the faint hum of Lyra's energy and the soft echo of their footsteps. For weeks, Captain Elias Vorn and Lyra had hidden in this underground labyrinth, observing the pulses of life forming inside her and monitoring the colony above. Outside, the frozen planet remained harsh and indifferent, but within these tunnels, a miracle was growing. Lyra moved with purpose, her hand brushing against the smooth walls as she navigated the narrow corridors. The life inside her had grown stronger, its energy almost tangible, filling the air around her with a subtle vibration. Elias followed, adjusting the monitors he carried, careful not to startle her. "You can feel it clearly now. Elias said quietly, glancing at the readouts. The energy is stabilizing. It's responding to your touch and thoughts. It is awareness. I sense it reacting to me, learning from me. It is alive in a way I did not imagine. They reached a small chamber deep within the tunnels, one they had modified into a laboratory and living space. It was sparsely furnished, but functional. Monitors, scanners, and the biosymbiotic interface were arranged carefully, with enough space for Lyra to move freely. Elias activated the interface. Let's see how it responds tonight. The energy should be stronger than yesterday. The life energy was forming patterns almost like a network, and it seemed to extend beyond Lyra's body, interacting with the environment in subtle ways. It's beautiful, Elias whispered. Look at the patterns, they're almost intelligent. I feel connection. They've found us. Elias marveled at how her senses had sharpened, her awareness extending to detect threats long before they appeared. As they approached a wider chamber, he heard the distant rumble of machinery, footsteps, and the sound of tools breaking through the tunnel walls. The rival faction was attempting to breach their hiding place. Lyra placed a hand on Elias' arm. We can't fight them directly. But we can use the life energy. It responds to me. The machinery outside screeched and sparked, the energy interfering with their equipment. Elias felt a surge of pride. Human ingenuity had brought them this far, but now, combined with Lyra's alien biology, they were witnessing something extraordinary. The life inside her was not just surviving, it was actively protecting itself, responding to threat and adapting in real time. The intruders reached the chamber's entrance, but they faltered, their sensors and tools failing as the energy disrupted their systems. Lyra moved her hands gracefully, guiding the pulses, and the rivals stumbled back, confused and disoriented. Elias realized that the life inside Lyra was more than a biological miracle. It was a force. A living, intelligent energy that could interact with the world in ways no one had predicted. When the intruders finally retreated, Lyra collapsed onto the platform, exhausted. The glow dimmed slightly, the pulses slowing to a manageable rhythm. Elias rushed to her side. You're safe, he said, gripping her arm gently. The energy protected you. The life inside you, it's strong. In the days that followed, they fortified the tunnels and adjusted their experiments. Elias and Lyra developed a routine, monitoring the life energy, guiding it, and documenting every reaction. The energy pulses became more coherent, almost rhythmic, as if the life inside her were learning to breathe, think, and interact with its surroundings. One evening, while reviewing the data, Elias noticed something unexpected. The life energy was resonating beyond Lyra's body, extending into the tunnel itself. Sensors picked up subtle shifts in temperature, slight vibrations in the walls, and changes in electromagnetic fields. It's interacting with the environment, Elias said slowly. It's not just inside her. It's spreading. Life was not confined to biology. It was energy, intelligence, and adaptability, responding to the world in ways that defied expectation. Their discovery was interrupted by another alarm. This time the sound was closer, more urgent. Elias' heart sank. The rival faction had regrouped and was now coordinating a more aggressive approach. They would not stop until they captured Lyra and the life she carried. We have to move, Elias said urgently. We can't let them reach you. The tunnels aren't safe anymore. I can guide the life to protect us as we move. As they reached the hidden chamber, Elias took a moment to catch his breath. We're safe for now, he said, but we need a long-term plan. They'll keep coming. It will protect itself if we guide it. The hidden chamber became a sanctuary, not just for them, but for the growing miracle inside her. During this time, Elias realized something profound. Humans had always believed that life required strict conditions, predictable biology, and controlled environments. But the energy inside Lyra defied those assumptions. It adapted, learned, and evolved, responding to both her guidance and the challenges of the environment. Human ingenuity had created the conditions, but the miracle itself was alive, intelligent, and resilient. One night, as the twin moons of Erebus 9 rose high in the sky, casting silver light through the tunnel's cracks, Elias and Lyra sat in silence. The glow from her body pulsed softly, filling the chamber with warmth. Do you think it will survive? Elias asked quietly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Lyra placed a hand over his. It is alive, Captain. It is learning. It is strong, and we will guide it. Together, nothing can stop it. The universe was harsh, full of dangers, and humans were fragile in comparison. Yet here in this hidden chamber on a distant planet, they had created something extraordinary. Life had returned to the impossible, nurtured by trust, ingenuity, and courage. Outside, Erebus 9 remained frozen and unforgiving. But within the tunnels, a new force was growing, alive, aware, and ready to face whatever threats came next. And for the first time, Elias understood that the greatest triumph of humanity was not conquest, not power, but the ability to protect, nurture, and create life against all odds. Lyra's eyes glimmered in the soft glow of the energy pulses. "The universe is vast," she said, "and it has not seen the last of us." Together they sat in the chamber, watching the faint pulses of life, feeling the rhythm of something miraculous taking shape. The tunnels were quiet again, but the energy inside Lyra resonated like a heartbeat, a promise of growth, hope, and the unstoppable force of life. The tunnels of Erebus 9 had become more than a hiding place. They were a fortress of discovery. Captain Elias Vorn and Lyra had spent weeks mapping the labyrinth, reinforcing weak points, and creating areas where they could safely monitor the life growing inside her. The energy pulses had grown stronger, more coherent, and even began interacting with the environment in subtle ways. Light flickered along the walls as the life energy reacted to their presence, almost as if it were learning to communicate with the world around it. Elias adjusted a monitor, studying the latest readings. "Lyra," he said cautiously, "the life energy is stronger than ever. It's extending further into the tunnel systems." "I've never seen anything like this." Human ingenuity had started this process, but now the miracle had taken on a life of its own. It was no longer just energy, it was a presence, aware and responsive. For weeks, they had avoided the rival faction, a human group intent on exploiting the life inside Lyra. But intelligence reports suggested they were organizing a major strike. They had failed to breach the tunnels before, but now they would come prepared. Elias knew that the coming confrontation would test both his skills and Lyra's growing powers. As the twin moons rose high over Erebus 9, casting silver light across the icy landscape above, Lyra sensed movement. Her eyes narrowed, pupils dilating as the energy inside her stirred. "They are coming," she whispered. Elias' hand went to the sidearm at his belt. "We need to prepare. There is no room for mistakes." The life inside her was learning how to manipulate matter subtly, shaping it in response to threats. "We can use this," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "I can guide it to defend us without harming us, but we must act quickly." Elias set up barricades and traps, using the natural contours of the tunnels to channel intruders into areas where the energy pulses could disorient and deter them. Lyra focused on the energy, shaping it into a subtle field around the chamber, a protective barrier that reacted to motion and intent. Hours passed in tense preparation. The faint hum of life energy filled the air, a reminder that their miracle was awake, learning, and ready. Then distant sounds echoed through the tunnel, footsteps, machinery, the unmistakable clatter of weapons being readied. "They're close," Elias whispered. "Get ready." They were armed with advanced equipment, weapons designed to counter both human and alien physiology. But they were unprepared for what awaited them. As they entered the chamber, the energy pulses flared. Light burst along the walls, and small vibrations shook the ground beneath them. Intruders faltered, their sensors overloaded by interference. The life inside Lyra reacted instinctively, projecting protective fields that disoriented and repelled the attackers without causing permanent harm. Elias moved quickly, guiding Lyra and using the environment to their advantage. The human ingenuity he had relied on for decades now merged seamlessly with the alien power she carried. Together, they created a coordinated defense that left the intruders scrambling and confused. Lyra's abilities continued to evolve. She could sense the intruders' positions, anticipate their movements, and guide the life energy to create subtle obstacles, walls of shimmering light, pulses of force that pushed them back, even bursts of heat that caused equipment to malfunction. Each action was precise, controlled, a testament to the growing bond between her and the life she carried. One of the intruders attempted to flank them, moving through a narrow side passage. Lyra's gaze sharpened, and the energy pulsed along the walls, forming a faint barrier that blocked his path. He stumbled, alarmed, as the field forced him back into the main chamber. Elias watched in awe. The life inside her was not just protective, it was strategic, almost intelligent. The battle raged for hours. The rival faction was relentless, but they were unprepared for the combined strength of human ingenuity and the Nethari's evolving abilities. Ilias used traps, decoys, and knowledge of the tunnels to channel the attackers into areas where the energy pulses could neutralize them without lethal force. Lyra moved with fluid grace, her body glowing brighter with every pulse. She could feel the life inside her responding to the threat, adapting and learning. Each movement she made guided the energy with precision, turning it into a living shield, a silent guardian that could anticipate danger and protect its host. At one point, a powerful surge of energy erupted from her body, knocking several intruders off their feet and forcing the remainder to retreat temporarily. Ilias seized the opportunity, coordinating their defenses and reinforcing the barriers with whatever equipment was available. When the intruders regrouped, they were cautious. Their confidence had been shaken, their plans disrupted by forces they could not understand. The life inside Lyra had changed the rules of engagement. It was no longer something passive. They were facing an intelligent, adaptive force that could anticipate and respond to threats. Lyra, exhausted but focused, turned to Ilias. "They will return. We must be ready. We can survive anything they send at us." In the quiet that followed the skirmish, Ilias and Lyra assessed the situation. "We need to expand our defenses," Ilias said. "The tunnels alone won't be enough if they come back stronger. It will learn to anticipate danger." She could sense weaknesses in structures, detect hidden objects, and even influence minor energy flows to manipulate equipment. It was clear that the life she carried was enhancing her senses, her reflexes, and her understanding of the environment. Ilias observed these changes with a mix of admiration and concern. The life inside her was growing rapidly, and with growth came power. They had to ensure that this power was guided responsibly, or it could become dangerous, even unintentionally. One evening, as they rested after another long day, Lyra spoke quietly. "I can feel it now more than ever. The life inside me is aware, learning, adapting. It is not just protecting us, it is preparing for the world outside these tunnels." "You mean it's ready to face the outside, to survive in the colony above?" Ilias realized that the life inside Lyra was more than a miracle of science. It was a testament to the combined strengths of humans and Nethari, ingenuity and resilience, trust and cooperation. As the night deepened, a new resolve settled over them. The rival faction would return, more determined and better prepared. But Ilias and Lyra were ready. The life inside her had grown stronger, smarter, and more aware, and together they had learned how to guide and protect it. For the first time, Ilias felt a deep sense of confidence. Humans had always adapted, always found solutions where others saw dead ends. Now they had created something extraordinary, life that was alive, aware, and capable of defending itself. Lyra placed a hand over her chest, feeling the faint pulses of the life within. "We are ready," she whispered. "No one can take this from us, not now, not ever. And together we will show the universe what humans and Nethari can do when they work as one." And as the first light of dawn began to filter through cracks in the ice, Ilias knew that no matter what challenges awaited them, they were ready. They had survived, they had adapted, and the life inside Lyra was stronger than anyone had imagined. The universe had not seen the last of them. The tunnels of Erebus 9 were quiet for the first time in weeks. The faint hum of life energy within Lyra pulsed softly, steady and controlled, as though it had learned patience. Captain Ilias Vorn watched her carefully, noticing the subtle changes in her movements, the way she breathed, the way the glow from the life inside her seemed almost like a heartbeat visible through her skin. They had survived the attacks, outsmarted the rival faction, and strengthened the tunnels. Now the most critical moment awaited them, the culmination of weeks of observation, care, and cooperation. Lyra stood on the biosymbiotic platform, her gaze fixed on the far end of the chamber. The life energy inside her had grown immensely in both strength and complexity. It radiated outward in waves that caused the walls to shimmer faintly, illuminating every corner of the tunnels with soft, pulsating light. Ilias felt a thrill run through him. The impossible was about to reach its peak. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, careful not to startle her. Lyra's eyes reflected the glow of the energy within. "I am," she said quietly. "It is time. The life is prepared. I feel it moving, seeking its way into the world." Sensors began to pick up rapid fluctuations as the life inside Lyra shifted and adapted. She moved her hands slowly over the interface, guiding the energy carefully. The pulses grew stronger, more rhythmic, like a heartbeat synchronizing with hers. "You can do this," Ilias whispered, more to himself than to her. "We've come this far." Nothing can stop it now. The life inside her responded instantly, pulsing and expanding, filling the chamber with warmth and light. Elias could feel the vibrations through the platform and the air around him. It was as if the energy itself had become a living presence, aware of its surroundings, attuned to every movement, every breath. The rival faction had attempted to strike again, but their approach had been detected early. Drones and sensors had picked up their movement, but they were too late. The tunnels had become a fortress, and the life inside Lyra was now powerful enough to repel any intrusion. The intruders stopped outside the tunnels, their systems disrupted, and they could only watch helplessly as the miracle continued inside. Lyra gritted her teeth as another contraction passed. She could feel the life inside her moving, preparing to enter the world fully. Elias guided her hands over the interface, adjusting the energy flows to maintain stability. The chamber vibrated with the rhythm of life itself, a low, humming resonance that seemed to echo through every corner of the tunnels. "It's almost ready," Lyra whispered. "I can feel it. The life, it is aware of the outside. It wants to see, to exist." Contractions came and went, each one stronger than the last. The life inside Lyra pulsed with increasing awareness, its energy interacting with the tunnel walls, the monitors, even with Elias. It was as though it was learning, adapting, and preparing for its first encounter with the world beyond the womb of Lyra's body. Finally, a surge of energy filled the chamber, stronger and brighter than anything they had witnessed before. Lyra gasped, her hands moving instinctively to guide the flow. Elias braced himself, feeling the chamber vibrate with a living force. Then slowly, carefully, the life emerged. It was small, radiant, and unlike anything either species had ever seen. Its body shimmered with a faint glow, a mixture of human adaptability and Nethari energy. The hybrid child blinked for the first time, and its presence filled the chamber with warmth. The air seemed lighter, the energy pulses more harmonious, as if the universe itself had acknowledged the miracle. Lyra collapsed onto the platform, exhausted but smiling faintly. "It is alive," she whispered. "It is real." The life inside Lyra had not just survived. It had grown, adapted, and now existed as a being capable of interacting with its surroundings. For the first time, the rival faction made their move, attempting to breach the tunnels once more. But this time, they encountered something they could not anticipate. The hybrid's energy extended outward, interacting with the life within Lyra and the environment of the tunnels. Machines malfunctioned, equipment short-circuited, and the intruders found themselves blocked by an invisible, intelligent force that pushed them back without harming them directly. Elias realized with awe that the child was not only aware but capable of protecting itself and its mother. "It's learning already," he whispered. "The hybrid, it knows how to defend itself." They had underestimated the bond between human ingenuity and alien biology, the combined strength of trust, knowledge, and life itself. Over the following days, Elias and Lyra focused on nurturing the hybrid child. Its energy pulses stabilized, and its interactions with the environment became more controlled and deliberate. The child began to mimic simple movements, responding to touch, light, and sound. Each day brought new discoveries. The hybrid was resilient, intelligent, and adaptable, proof that life could flourish in ways no one had imagined. Lyra watched her child with a mixture of awe and tenderness. "It is perfect," she whispered. "It carries the strength of humans and the awareness of Nethari. It will shape the future, Elias. I can feel it." They observed the child, marveled at the life energy, and began to understand the possibilities of cooperation between species. Humanity's ingenuity had not only created life where none could exist, it had nurtured it, protected it, and guided it to its first steps. Lyra and Elias became teachers and guides, helping both humans and Nethari understand the nature of this new life. They demonstrated that survival, cooperation, and respect were as powerful as technology, strategy, or brute force. The rival faction, defeated and humbled, retreated from Erebus 9. They had underestimated the combination of human intelligence, Nethari resilience, and the miracle of life itself. The colony, however, flourished. Settlers learned to trust Lyra and Elias, and together they built a community that celebrated the bond between species and the power of ingenuity. One evening, as the twin moons rose and cast silver light over the settlement, Lyra held her child, watching it pulse softly with radiant energy. Elias stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "The universe is vast, and our child will face challenges no one can predict. but we have shown that life, ingenuity, and trust can overcome anything. Together, outside, Erebus 9 remained harsh and unforgiving, but within the settlement, a new dawn had begun. Humans and Nethari worked side by side, learning from each other, nurturing life, and shaping a future full of possibilities. The colony had faced dangers, rival factions, and impossible odds, yet they had endured. And at the heart of it all was a small, radiant being that embodied the triumph of life itself. Lyra looked at Elias, a faint smile on her lips. "They will never understand fully, Elias," she said softly, "but they will witness the miracle, and they will know that humans, when guided by curiosity, empathy, and courage, can achieve the impossible. Humanity has always reached for the stars, and now so has life in ways no one could have imagined. This child, this life, is proof. The universe had tested them, challenged them, and underestimated them. But humans, guided by ingenuity, resilience, and empathy, had triumphed. Life had returned to the impossible, and in doing so, had changed the course of history on Erebus 9 forever. As dawn broke fully over the icy plains, the settlement glimmered in the morning light. Within the tunnels, life pulsed steadily, radiating hope, strength, and the promise of a future shaped by courage and cooperation. Lyra, Elias, and their child looked toward the horizon, ready to face whatever the universe would send next together. The miracle had been born. Humanity had triumphed, and the universe had not seen the last of them.